Sublime magnificence. Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent big ugly himself, Omari Feo Grande on YouTube, back with another episode that this guy hasn't seen. And as usual, I am joined by my co-host and runner mate, one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
Hey Omari, so good to have you back from that was a while ago. Yeah, it's so good to be back here is what I mean. always with you here on our little movie club where we're trading things we like to watch back and forth. One of us has seen it, one of us hasn't. If we haven't told you yet, I'm going to tell you now. You should do this with somebody you know and love because it's super fun. As always, like one of the favorite. Like I'm already doing it with Omari, so I'm not going to fucking do it with somebody else because I don't. We only have so much time on our hands, people. But if you're not doing this already, like I want to know about. I want to see an age gap one. I want to see somebody in their 60s sharing movies with somebody who's 26. Like that's what I want to see. That sounds really cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, always good to be back. Thank you for having me, Omar.
Indeed, thanks for coming. Yes, that's right. So this week we're doing something. We're going a little bit more down my alley. Like Bill has seen a lot more stuff than I have movie-wise. My area of expertise, I went more performance entertainment. I went to video games. And a series that, while I wasn't as versed in the lore of, but I always seemed to enjoy was King of Fighters, and I figured we did a Street Fighter movie a while back, so this time I decided to go with, and I'll explain why a little bit in a second, but we decided to go with the two little specials from SNK's counterpart, Fatal Fury. We did The Legend of the Hungry Wolf and A New Battle, or Fatal Fury 2, A New Battle, I believe is what it's
called. And we'll
called.
Start with Fatal Fury, Legend of the Hungry Wolf. From 1992. After their father is killed by his arch rival, his two sons, Terry and Andy Bogard, return from 10 years of training to learn a secret technique their father's master promised to teach them in order to avenge their father's murder.
That's right.
It is directed by Hiroshi Fukutomi, written by Takashi Yamada, and stars. We watched the English dub version. Thank you, Omari, for granting me that license. And so we watched a bunch of English voices acting in it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Omari, one, to spoil my what were you expecting, completely, totally forgot that you had mentioned, well, the Street Fighter movie worked, so let's do another fighting game thing. Completely forgot you ever said that until you just said it 5 seconds ago. So give me the backstory here and a little bit farther than what you just said a moment ago on how this came about, why you decided to go with this one.
All right. So the main character of this movie, Terry Bogard, is a character that I like a lot in the video games. This is something I literally wear on my badge for work. So I've been a fan of Terry Bogard's ever since I played him in like some side game in the past. I wasn't that well versed on his story from his games or whatever, but I remember seeing this a while back because I got a good friend that's very heavy into SNK. We may get him on the show one day. He's very entertaining and stuff in his own right.
SNK?
It's short for something in Japanese.
Okay. But everybody just calls it SNK.
Yeah. Nowadays they're like SNK Play More because they merged with another company. But yes. Fatal Fury, a little background on what Fatal Fury is. It's pretty much Street Fighter 1 came out, and then I think they got a different person to work on Street Fighter 2, and the Street Fighter 1 guy left Capcom and made his own fighting game. and that was Fatal Fury. And it ended up being pretty much a competitor. Eventually, Fatal Fury evolved into, because they had a tournament that they run in the story of those games called the King of Fighters tournament. Eventually, SNK decided to make Dream Match games in a separate universe where all kinds of IPs under the SNK logo can compete in its own separate story called the King of Fighters. And that pretty much blew up more than Fatal Fury did. But Terry's in all of those as well, because I mean he's the Ryu of SNK,
Right.
and he even got put in Smash Brothers Ultimate as a DLC character, in homage to how big he is. I think up until recently he was in more crossover games than Ryu. Just to go with his popularity as a character. I went with this because, like I said, we had gone with Street Fighter before. In all honesty, I was kind of put on the spot. I felt put on the spot, not like, how dare you, but just at the time, I was like, I need to pick something. I watched this before. Fatal Fury. We watched Street Fighter on here. Let's watch Fatal Fury. But it became like what to watch. There's 3 of them. There's Fatal Fury, The Legend of the Hungry Wolf. That's only like 45 minutes. There's the new battle, which is like an hour. And then there's Fatal Fury, the motion picture. I was just going to pick the motion picture because it's called the motion picture and it's about an hour and a half in length. But I remembered that the motion picture kind of assumes that you watch the first 2. So I'm like, we'll put these 2 together then. I think the motion picture was probably better of the 3, but it was also just, it assumes you watched the first 2. So I'm like, I'm weird. If something tells you you have to watch a prequel thing, I'm going to be like, I know this is I did it with JoJo's. I know this is the most famous part, but we're watching part 1 and 2 first because they come first, damn it. So that's what happened with this as well. And so that's why I chose these. And we're starting with the first Fatal Fury, whatever. So if you didn't know it was about fighting games or a fighting game reference, what were you expecting, Bill?
I was expecting, when we had talked about it, when we first talked about you picking this, and we were like, oh, are we gonna watch Japanese or English? And I just did a very quick Google, opened the first video, skipped to 15 minutes in, and heard English words that weren't. It didn't sound like it was going to be terrible dubbing, and so then I completely shut my brain down. Didn't allow to consume anymore. But in that brief moment, I saw that it was going to be a little older.
Yeah.
And I also saw Terry, and and that was immediately one of those moments of like, oh, it's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm interested in this because at least I'm going to see the origin of that iconography that I've seen everywhere for years. I mean, not everywhere, but like
you've seen them a lot. You've seen them around.
Yeah, if there's anime, if there's a random anime memorabilia shelf, there's likely some sort of red baseball cap with the metal plate thing on there somewhere. Like that little keychain bit that you that you held up.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a part of me that was like, oh, okay, so I get to see. So it's the origin of this dude. Cool. Or this will be my origin of seeing this dude.
This revolves this guy. I get to see what this guy's from, where he comes from. What I will learn about this character.
And beyond that, I know enough about anime to know to not expect anything else because it could go anywhere. Like, we've talked about that in previous anime episodes. It could go like, is this going to be like a little cutesy anime? Is this going to be a just like
vampire
a realism? Yeah, is it going to be like a realism, a martial arts training thing? Is it going to be like kids? Is it going to be a young adult? Is it going to be mature? It could go anywhere. Is it sci-fi? Is it weird? Is it fucked up?
Yeah.
Is it kind of body horror-ish like some animes can go?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So I don't really expect much of anything beyond, oh, I saw a brief moment of it and it looks a little older, and hey, that red hat guy. I'm finally going to get to know where that fucking red hat is from.
Exactly.
I've seen that red hat with that plate on it forever.
All right. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get into it. So movie starts up. We're starting with the first one, obviously. What are some of your initial reactions to the movie?
Confirmation that the animation's a little older.
Mm.
Seeing it's going to be origin story. It's you're immediately like, all right, it's not gonna go well for this guy.
Yeah, the kids start grinning around the guy like, oh, hey, Mister So, and his sons are coming on the boat. One of which has blue hair for some reason, and he's always been blonde in the games. He has blue hair in the Hungry Wolf. For reasons I don't know. They fix it in the second movie. But yeah, sure enough, the second the girl gives him flowers and then like the people come around is like, oh, she set him up. But apparently she unwittingly set him up. We'll find out later. But I'm just like, these fucking kids. And that's where we get our introduction to Geese Howard. Another fighting game villain of legend. He was a guest character in Tekken 7. I was there. Okay. I remember when they announced him. That was one of the loudest pops I've ever seen at an Evo for a guest character. Was for Geese Howard. Now, and I'm a fan of Geese Howard just because him and Terry have always been voiced by the same people. Because Japan keeps, once you voice somebody, you pretty much voice them for life, barring extreme circumstances. And they usually speak English lines despite having Japanese voice actors. So they're heavily accented English lines that these two both say. And that just makes everybody love them more. You know, Geese counter someone, he's like, predictable! Instead of predictable and shit like that. So it's cool seeing Geese, and like the English pronunciation of the words endeared me to both characters. I just can't play as Geese. He's difficult to play. But if it wasn't for that, I'd be a Geese player as well as a Terry player. Easy.
Okay.
Fighting games, it's one of the cool things about it. You just go with a character you like, and I would, but I can't play them. So I root for Geese players because I can't play them. But
it's amazing. It's amazing that Terry became one of your mains without you knowing his backstory. That feels atypical to everything I know Omari.
Well, okay, so Capcom versus SNK 2. Mark of the Millennium 2001, whatever. It's a game that I saw a friend of mine playing, and I was like, who's this pizza man looking ass, dude, red baseball cap, vest?
Yeah, he looks like
jeans.
A delivery boy.
Yeah,
he gives
like
off delivery boy vibes.
And I'm like, who is this guy? But like I said, he's just always like, hey, come on, get serious. And just saying all kinds of stuff, Power Panaku. And he has a super, which based on his it's called Legend of the Hungry Wolf. Spoiler, she doesn't do anything wolf-like this entire movie. We even talked about that before it aired. But he has a super that I thought was cool where he winds up and then he dashes forward, punch, explosion. But what he says when he does it, and again, is a Japanese guy, he's just like, are you okay? Buster woof, and there's a big explosion, shit tons of damage, and I thought that was cool. I played him. He was very easy for me to play in the style that I play. I'm not gonna say I play him to an optimal level, but he was easy enough to play and get by, which makes sense because he's the Ryu of that series, so the controls are gonna be relatively simple. But yeah. I'm gonna say English, but I don't mean it as an insult, but just so I don't keep saying heavily accented Japanese. The English endeared me to the character, and I just wanted to play him a lot. And eventually, my friend that I mentioned earlier told me a lot about the lore and stuff. But yeah, then I found out he's on a vengeance quest against Geese for killing his dad. And so that even made him more of a Omari character.
That's part of the math equation.
Yeah, like, oh shit, vengeance quest. Yeah, and sure enough, vengeance quest it is in this movie.
Yeah, we're full on origin story.
Yeah, full on origin story.
Geese kills the dad.
Yeah,
and then the old man that was arriving on the boat with the sons turns to them and is like, "All right, well, your dad's dead now, so I'm going to have to train you both equally until one day I decide that only one of you is going to get the super special power. Let's go." It's like, all right,
yeah.
It sounds like my instinct, knowing these type of games usually and the tropes they go by, is like, all right, well, that's breeding ground for. So Andy is the villain of this series.
He actually isn't.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like, yeah, that scene is usually the like, okay, well, I know that red baseball cap kid, it grows up to be the main character. So his brother's probably going to be the bad guy because that never ends well.
But it turns out
in this show alone, we've seen like 3 different stories that are like, I will raise you two as equals until one day I decide that one of you is better than the other one.
We talked about Hokuto no Kid on here, and that definitely happened. Rao was like, "You chose that motherfucker?"
Bahubali.
It's a classic trope, and technically that did happen because we'll jump around, whatever. That did happen because when he tells them, "I have a secret technique I taught your father, but didn't teach Geese. They were being trained together until I did that, and then Geese got mad at me." So technically that did happen.
And Master even says in that moment, Andy's just like Geese.
Yeah. Andy's like, what the fuck?
I was still foreshadowing, like, yeah, we could. I mean, because we have two different things to watch. But yeah, I was absolutely so once it wasn't, and it was just purely origin story. This film, I was like, all right, so next movie, Andy's the bad guy. So that's what happens. Gotcha. The Master even told us he's just like Geese.
Yeah.
So yeah, by that point I was like, okay, so it's the next movie. He's overcome with jealousy and does something to be the bad guy.
Because Terry actually gets taught the Senpuken.
Andy's cool, just being like, yeah, my big brother's powerful. My brother is better than me.
Yeah.
I'm cool with number 2.
But yeah, so they fast forward a little bit. We got Terry at a bar. He's grown up, and he's showing up at a bar that's owned by Geese, the Pow Pow Cafe, a stage that's known in a lot of the video games for people out there.
Okay.
And we see Geese. We don't see a lot of people from the Fatal Fury games in this first one. We do see a few. The British guy with the bandana and the stick, Billy Kane or Billy Kane. It's spelled Kane. Sometimes they pronounce that as Khan. But Billy Kane, he's in the movie. And much like in the games, he's one of Geese's main henchmen. We don't get to see Yamazaki, who's another one. But we get to see him, and he's at the bar.
They're also like a luchador character, right?
Yeah, right.
I assume now that we're talking fighting games, I assume he's one of them.
Yeah, right. Yep, and he's in the second movie. I will get to that if you didn't catch where he was in the second movie. We'll get to it, but Raiden, he's in that as well, and he's apparently working for Geese, which I didn't remember whether or not that was a thing from the games. But we also get introduced to a character who I got mixed up with the character from the games, but it's not her, which makes sense now because I did some research right before this. We get introduced to Lily, who Billy Kane, to my knowledge, and I could be 100% wrong, has a sister, Lily Kane. And I'm thinking that's her in this movie, but then I was like, why is he not acting like that's his sister? Oh, now I know. It's because it isn't. Also, Lily in the games was not a love interest for Terry, but she's a love interest for Terry in this.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And they met as kids. They meet in the bar. There's a big bar brawl because she throws a rose out. Whoever catches this rose gets to spend the night with me. And these guys are really trying to fight over the chance to be with her. And the rose just ends up falling into Terry's hands, and they immediately sparks flying. But the guys are jealous, so here comes a bar brawl. Terry's beating them up. He gets helped by a guy who gets later revealed to be Joe Higashi. Yes, also from the games, if you couldn't tell by him yelling named attacks as the movie went on. Joe Higashi, another fun character to play as, another character that I do like from the games. I just usually end up picking other people, including a guy who shows up in the second movie. But yeah, they get out of the bar fight, ha ha ha. They kind of work together, and he's like, "I knew it. You're Terry Bogard. You're Andy's brother." What? Yeah. So apparently, over the past 10 years, I've been being a kickboxing champion known around the world. Andy's been a rival of mine in a couple competitions, and yeah, that's how I know him. And I figured, if you're that guy's brother, you got to be cool too. And Terry has made a bit of a name for himself as a fighter as well. Yeah. And Geese is holding his annual King of Fighters tournament in the movie. So to go with what we were talking about earlier, that's where they got the thing from the games. So Geese is holding his annual King of Fighters tournament, and they were contemplating doing it. But after the master eventually tells them, hey, I'm going to teach you guys this technique between the two of you, Terry and Andy, who finally met up, decide, let's enter the tournament. And whoever wins that, Master Tung Fu Ru will teach them that. Tung Fu Ru is also from the games. And he has a whole little Master Roshi, like Jackie Chun gimmick where he gets all muscular for some of his moves and stuff. Kind of like the aura that we see later on. He kind of transforms for that for some of his moves in the games. So yeah, they do this, and I gotta talk. They're talking about the secret technique that he didn't teach Geese in the wide open. He's like, it's so secret, I taught nobody except for your father. Wide open in a bar, in public, in a restaurant rather, and literally the next table over is two of Geese's men who get up, and he says that they're Geese's men as if he realized that. I'm like, why are you talking about this here then? You knew they were Geese's men. Keep your mouth shut. You know what
we have to have a movie, Omari.
Okay. Don't have him acknowledge that those are Geese's men. Have him not notice that they're eavesdropping. If he knows they're that's why I'm saying it. If he didn't notice they were eavesdropping, that's one thing. But when he himself draws attention to it, because even like Terry and Andy didn't even realize, he's just like, by the way, those were Geese's men. What? Wait, what? Yeah, he probably knows now. Anyway, into the tournament. We get a little montage. Oh, Terry meets Lily in the street, and they have some of the cheesiest 90s dialogue about, like, I know someone who's not escaping from her cage. If only you could escape from your cage, you would be.
The street scene and the locker room scene are so melodramatic. And the score that's going along with it is like, I mean, the score throughout this entire thing and the second one kind of lets it down. It doesn't it doesn't match the moment or tone in the piece often.
I can give you that.
But yeah, in those scenes they are matching the tone of this like real melodrama, and it's not landing super well.
I'm like, this is so fucking 90s cheesy ass. You need to escape from your cage. And I also laughed when she saw Terry's picture on Geese's desk as she dropped the glass. I'm like, lol. Speaking of over dramatic, Andy's voice actor in the dub is very over dramatic. I will defeat Geese. You will pay for my father.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help because like the director, the piece is giving him very dramatic cuts and camera angles and things like that to go along with like, no, he will not.
Also, they apparently part of the problem when it came to dubbing and the weird speech patterns that the voice actors would do in the past, I remember hearing about this, was they focused so hard on trying to match the lip flaps. And Japan, they kind of just was like, whatever, their lips are flapping, you're good. Yeah. So when it used to just be the lip flaps, we would try to match them, so that would make things longer. Like, so some things where it's like, I would not do that. Or, like, I wouldn't do it. But the mouth was like open, so I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't do that.
There's a line in the second movie where it's literally Terry, and it's like, I can see he extended the last word because the mouth was open so long, and that made the delivery weird. They've gotten better about that over the years, though, in adapting to do that, as well as Japanese voice actors or animators making the lips more easy to follow. But yeah, I'll never forget. Was in the second one. Sorry, I just saw a note about that. Anyway, So yeah, we get our montage of the tournament. They're fighting, and we got people fighting. Joe bodies his dude, tiger kick to the face, fucking knee to the face. And we see everybody just kind of mowing through people, and it's all the characters from the game. The characters that you remember from the games are gonna win.
These are characters.
Yeah, the characters winning are from the games. I didn't recognize any of the people that lost.
Some of them are just kind of generic people. Some of them are a little specific.
Yeah, Richard Meyer might be from the games because he gets a first and last name. But I didn't play a lot of the early Fatal Fury games. I mainly know like King of Fighters recent shit when it comes to Terry. But I didn't see Bob Wilson. I know that's a character from the early Fatal Fury games. He's a black dude with dreads.
Named Bob Wilson.
Bob Wilson. But yeah, they go through the tournament, and Geese is like, he tries to tell Lily to poison Terry. She doesn't because she loves him. And so he's like, fuck it. I'm going to shoot.
Real close. Dangerously close.
Dangerously close, but she does back out at the last second. Like, I can't do it. And he's like, I knew you couldn't do it. But it's time for Terry's fight. And eventually, I think it comes down to him versus Andy in a fight. And Geese is like, I don't care who wins this. I'm going to snipe both these motherfuckers and be done with it. I don't care that Tung Fu Ru has a new technique and he won't teach me. He can't teach them if they did. Fuck this shit. Which, fair. It's like, I'm only scared of them if they learn the technique. They can't learn the technique if I kill them. And you can't find Tung Fu Ru himself? No? Well, kill them. But Joe takes a bullet for him. And then the lights turn off so they can escape. But as they're trying,
I guess are we supposed to assume that Lily did that?
I think so.
Because when the lights come back on, Lily is guiding them through the back hallways.
That's my assumption. So I will agree with that. I think we're supposed to assume that Lily turned the lights off once that happened, and she's like, finally. And it turns out, by the way, Lily was the little girl that was selling the flowers.
Yeah, that was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed. Like I don't. It's not super relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. So
I'm just
she's
glad. I'm just glad they gave you clothes, girl.
yeah.
I'm just glad after that sidewalk scene, after that back alley scene, they decided to give her clothes. So I was excited for her to have clothes. She looked like she would be cold in the first two scenes that she was in.
Fair. But she helps them escape. However, she does not get to escape with them as Geese
Damn,
murders
man.
her.
Yeah, that felt unnecessary and unwarranted. Like the second she's like, no, the wounded first. I was like, oh, fucking bye, bitch.
Yep. And it's like, bitch, you ain't canon. Get the fuck out this movie.
Yeah. You're not even in the fighting game.
Right. And I remember thinking that Billy had a sister named Lily Kane, because I know eventually, like in one of the games, Billy has a bandana that says no smoking because his sister has a condition like where cigarette smoke would make it worse for her or whatever. Like he cares a lot about his sister. So I was upset for a minute. Like, why is Billy not addressing his sister? This guy is someone who cares enough to where he wears a no smoking thing on his bandana. What the fuck? Only to realize in the minutes before we started this, while I tried to do a little bit of extra research, oh, she's not from the games at all. She's not that person. And so I was like, no wonder he didn't act like that's his sister, because it ain't. Cool.
Yeah, that makes much more sense. However, I will ask why that dude is able to just poke this martial arts grandmaster in the chest with a stick and kill him.
He just, hey. By the way, he's another funny character with
My only
too.
weakness, a blunt stick.
And this movie
into my chest.
And something that detracts from this movie is they do a lot of just implied action.
Yeah, that's the weird. They'll show a character gearing up really hard for a big impressive spin kick. And then they'll show motion lines, and then they'll cut to a character observing the action going, oh, and then they'll cut back to the character landing.
Yeah.
And the other guy falling to the ground. Like, oh, you kind of cut out the coolest part there, guys.
So it's like y'all could have made this an hour and animated the fights, damn it. But yeah, he just kind of pokes Tung Fu Ru with a stick, and now he's about to die. He's like, yeah, I got that, old man, I did. And fucking eventually Tung Fu Ru, before he dies, because Andy runs ahead because he's mad. Fuck Geese, now he's fucking over my master. And Joe's like, you can't do this on your own. I'm gonna go with you. I took a bullet for y'all. I might as well see this vengeance quest through. So they go ahead, and Tung Fu Ru's like, wait, I must teach you the Senpuken, the hurricane punch. You absorb the ki from the earth. By the way, the subtitles, I'm not sure if you had subtitles on or captions on. I did. I thought it was funny how they were misspelling a lot of things in this movie. Like they said the ki from the earth, they spelled it like the key to a car as opposed to Ki. Spiritual energy, what he was referring to. Terry goes okay, and the thing says the king. Oh yeah, Terry has a signature win pose where he throws his hat in the air and yells okay from the games. That's like his big thing. Chun-Li has to ha 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 yatta. He has to okay. You know what I mean? So, but they put the subtitles the king. Like, he said okay. Come on now. Okay is universal in every language. Yeah. But yeah, so Terry learns this ability because Master Tung Fu Ru uses his arm and then dies in a prayer stance.
Yeah. Pretty epic way to go.
Yeah, he dies out. And so we get to Andy and Joe. They're trying to take on Geese. They got to go through Billy and Raiden. They get some cool moves off and eventually beat the two of them. But Joe, he got shot in the shoulder like 2 hours ago, and then he fought a fucking luchador. So he's like,
who focused on that bullet wound?
who focused on the bullet wound. Actually, now that I think about it, with the exception of Joe and maybe Andy, everybody that they actually featured in this movie in the games uses a lot of English because they're like from English speaking countries, so they make them speak English lines, including Raiden. I am Raiden. Hey, nobody can stop me. Billy. But yeah, they beat them, and then Andy's like, I'm a face geese. Bodied. Get out of here. He fucking Repukins him, and Andy's beaten. And they make it look like Terry's gonna catch him because he's doing this slow motion fall. And they cut to Terry running up the stairs. Running up the stairs. I'm like, oh, Terry's gonna catch him. Nope. He falls. And then Terry runs up. I'm like, all right. Fair enough. You must have avenged our father. And so, now it's Terry versus Geese. Oh, that's what he says. I'll never forget was there. And then, yeah, Terry versus Geese. Again, could have been more epic, but it's kind of real quick between the two of them. Terry tries his power wave from the games. Geese does his Reppuken. Eventually, Terry's like, okay, time for the Senpuken. Does the thing. By the way, it's called Senpuken, literally Hurricane Fist, which they also call it in the movie. What's his name? Oh, the subtitle said Simple Can. Like Simple Can instead of Senpuken.
Oh,
I'm like, okay.
I mean, so many captions now are auto generated.
Yeah,
from just like word to type programs.
Yeah,
I would hope it's just the fault of that. But
yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, I'm like, come on now. Anyway, Geese loses, and it's different from the. This is where the thing differs from the game as far as, in addition to the other things with Lily and all that shit, clearly. But another thing it differs from the games is, to my knowledge, the first Fatal Fury game ends with Terry versus Geese on top of a building, but Terry knocks that motherfucker off the top of the building and kills him.
Okay.
Canonically, Geese dies in that game. And then Terry raises his son, Rock, who in later games would go on to adapt a fighting style that's like an amalgamation of Terry and Geese's. But yeah, Rock Howard. But Rock Howard was nowhere mentioned in this movie. So, and Geese also doesn't die. He just kind of falls into like some water. And then they have this sad ass song for the ending credits.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that if you did watch the credits to the end, the only thing that relates Terry to a wolf the entire movie is him like standing there with his fucking little hobo bag over his shoulder, and there's like a silhouette of the wolf in the background, just like Legend of the Hungry Wolf. And I'm like,
there's our representation of a wolf.
And that's the first one. I think that's all I really got to talk about from the first one. Not a lot to talk about with the first one.
I think we covered a good chunk of it.
All right, so you want to talk about just feelings for this, or you want to talk about it all together with the final thoughts?
Yeah. Let's wrap it up after both.
All right, so we'll go right into a new battle, where we start off with some dude walking up and playing an organ, and it's like, okay, this is how you introduce a new.
I mean, this opening's kind of sweet.
Yeah,
this opening's kind of sweet. The organ, with the montage of his helper.
Yeah, just beating up all of Geese's people. Like, y'all ain't shit. This is what we say about the villains from the first part,
right?
And he finds Geese, and we enter Wolfgang Krauser, who looks a lot younger than he does in the games. And I'm pretty sure in the games he has a fucking mustache, like bushy ass, Tom Selleck, Burt Reynolds fucking mustache.
Okay.
But he enters. He's Geese's half brother, and he's like, "Who's the guy that beat you?" "It's Terry Bogard. See if you can do something about that, motherfucker." "You can't." And we cut to this little kid named Tony, who I'm gonna go ahead and assume is not from the games, considering Lily wasn't. But he's sitting there and he finds a Terry kind of just hanging around, being the good guy. Hey, little kid, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be your mentor for the movie. And you see some kids playing out the story from the previous one. I'm Terry Bogard. I'm Andy Bogard, and I'm Joe Higashi. Die, geese! Ah! Guys, shut up! You can't insult Terry. What, you think you Terry? You ain't shit. Oh yeah? And Tony's got hands. He starts fighting him. He starts fighting him.
Yeah.
And then starts beating the shit out of one of them. And then Terry's like, "Hey, kid, stop. Stop. You won. You won. You don't tell me what to do." You talked about Terry being a wolf, right? Because the kid mentioned something. I'm the hungry wolf, Terry. He's like, wolves know when to back down or some shit like that. And then a guy walks up to him who is from the games. And the first SNK character that I remember actually picking as a quote-unquote main ever.
Okay, yeah.
Kim Kepwan. He's a Taekwondo guy from South Korea. He walks up. He had the white gi on with the blue trim, and he's like, "You're Terry Bogard? I want to fight you. I heard you're pretty awesome." And Terry's like, "Fine, bring it." And immediate improvement over the first movie. We actually see some fighting between the two.
Yeah.
But they also clearly hint that something happened with that Senpukyak where Terry's knee is fucked up. And he keeps... And it's just gonna egg him on for the entire second part. Man, my knee is jacked. I can't do the Senpukyak because I got a jacked knee, but watch me do this Senpukyak. And so he beats Kim, but he's clearly holding his leg, and he impresses the kid like, "Oh shit, you're the real Terry Bogard, awesome." And right when that happens, after that happens, we cut across the sea to a scene in Japan where it's Joe in a match against somebody and named Big Bear. Now, I will give this movie kudos for making it Japanese. Since they're in Japan, they're having the two talk Japanese to one another, and everybody in this scene, even in the dub. What I hate is that the Amazon Prime version, at least the one I watched on Amazon Prime, the subtitles were off the fucking screen for when they were talking in Japanese. And so you just have to context clues what's going on in this scene. And essentially, it's Joe fighting a guy named Big Bear. Big Bear, I'm assuming, because he does mention the name Raiden Sama, and with what I know from the games, he's like, "I'm Raiden from the first movie. This is my other persona, Big Bear, and I'm back to beat your ass in a professional ring." And then the announcer's like, "This match is cool, but it's got a stipulation. The rings are electrocuted, or the ropes are electrocuted." Joe's like, "What the fuck? What do you mean the rings are? What do you mean the ropes are electrocuted? You want to fight or what?" "I ain't fighting shit." "Too bad, nigga. The bell's ringing. Ding, ding, ding. Ah! What the hell? No, I'm jumping out of this ring and I'm fucking leaving. You can't leave. Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm fucking leaving." And he leaves. That is highly paraphrased. I don't really speak Japanese, but you can kind of get that vibe from the scene with everything I just said that happened. You can play.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And so Joe leaves. That we cut back. Now Krauser done found Terry. He's like, "You're the guy that beat Geese? I'm gonna beat you up." And he does. He beats the shit out of Terry, but Terry's also got the whole bum knee going on, and then he starts doubting himself. And after he loses, the little kid talking shit like, "You wouldn't beat Terry if he was at full strength." "Oh yeah? Well, tell him to see me in a couple months. I'll be waiting in Germany." And he fucking leaves. He's like, "Fine, let him heal up then. I want to fight the guy to beat my half-brother Geese."
Right.
And so he goes overseas and goes to wait for Terry to come back. But Terry enters a whole drunken wanderer phase where he's just going around the country, drinking in bars, drinking like bottles of whiskey whole, just glug, 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 glug. And whatever. Meanwhile, we find out what Andy's been up to as a character enters from the Fatal Fury games. That is another popular character with the fans, if you hadn't guessed. Mai Shiranui, SNK's answer to Chun-Li, but instead of thighs, she's endowed up top. And she loves her some Andy Bogard. Boy,
yes, she does.
Loves her some Andy Bogard. And boy, does Andy Bogard kind of indifferent. But she is obsessed with Andy, and apparently that is their dynamic from the games. Is she's obsessed with him, and she's like, we're engaged, and he's like, what? Okay, whatever, we're cool. Your dad trained me how to be a ninja. Now, I do kind of wish she got more fighting and winning in this movie instead of just being fucking treated as eye candy.
Yeah, and like slave to Andy.
Yeah, because at least in the games, you know, she's a cool character. She has a lot of moves with fire and shit. She throws fans at people, which she does in this movie. But she's a fighter. At least from what I know in the games. Yeah, she has that whole obsession with Andy thing going on, but she also can win fights, to my knowledge. And, you know, I kind of wish that would have been accented more. But yeah, she's here, and she's Mai Shiranui, and she's just here to bounce around. Yeah, so they corrected Andy's hair color. He's blonde now, like he should be. And they eventually find out Joe's telling Andy, like, yo, Andy, Terry lost, and now he's a fucking drunken hobo. We need to go fix that. And Mai's like, maybe we shouldn't. And Joe sexes his ass. Be silent, woman. We want to be on vengeance. I'm like, damn, Joe. Not the be silent woman. But yeah, eventually fast forwards, Joe finds Terry. They have a pretty cool scene between the two of them where Joe's like, what the fuck, man, the fuck up, who is this, the guy that did the so-and-so, stop being the fucking drunken thing, which is always a cool little scene to see the guy be like, where's the motherfucker I knew, pick yourself up, so you lost, get back in there, we gotta whoop this motherfucker's ass. And, you know, we eventually get, like, as everyone's trying to meet up with each other, Mai does get a fight against Lawrence Blood. And yes, Lawrence is from the games, but he's not really a popular character to my knowledge. Like, I don't ever see him in a King of Fighters. He's only Fatal Fury. Just about everybody else is also in King of Fighters.
Okay.
Like, I think just about every other named character that I've mentioned was in the games is in King of Fighters. Even the most recent version of King of Fighters, they're still around. Lawrence, he stays in the early Fatal Fury games. Raiden may not be. Raiden was in 14, though, if I remember correctly. Anyway. Bottom line is, we got that going on. She fights Lawrence. She loses and gets saved by Andy, much to her glee. But
we even have like a slow motion moment while she's falling. It's like, oh,
as he catches her to carry her off. Yeah, so that was a thing. Joe decides, you know what? Terry's being a drunk fucking hobo right now. I'm gonna take it on myself to avenge him. I'm going after Krauser. Does not end well for him. He gets Kaiser waved, building fucking windows explode, and he's like, ugh, fucking Peter Griffin ball. Just done.
Yeah.
And he's done for the movie. He's like, I tried to avenge you, Terry.
This never goes well for you, Andy.
Joe?
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah. And so eventually Terry fights Andy. I don't even remember why they're fighting, but they fight.
Because that's the only way to train, Omari. They have to be as ruthless as possible to each other.
Oh yeah, that's right. So they do their little training fight, and that was a pretty cool fight. Like I like the fact that the fighting is actually fighting in the second part. But they're
Yeah.
doing things and yelling moves from the games. You got your power waves, your burn knuckles. He did a rising tackle in the first movie, but they didn't do the animation for the rising tackle. He just got ready to do the move. It's the rising tackle. Ugh. Show the rising tackle. But yeah, so he does that, but eventually, is it Mai that tells them, guys, stop fighting each other? We gotta fight Krauser. Somebody tells
Right.
them, it's either Mai or fucking Tony that's like, guys, you gotta fight fucking Krauser.
Yeah. Eventually, Tony gets through to him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forget what scene it is, but there's a scene where Tony gets his ass whooped. And that's how he gets through to Terry, because someone's like,
It's still during the
street. Yeah,
it's still during
phase.
his drunken wanderer phase.
Yeah, and Tony's getting his ass whooped, and Terry's like, I used to get my ass whooped when I was a kid, but I don't get my ass whooped anymore. I need to be a man and fight Krauser. So that's kind of how that happened. Anyway, eventually we get Terry versus Krauser 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. And yeah, Terry now like, you know what, fuck the injured knee, I'm trying this Hado Senpukyak. But Krauser's like, I saw that move once and I can do it too. So they're like bouncing off of each other, but he's like, see, you can't do shit to me. Oh shit, my armor's breaking. You somehow got stronger. And eventually Terry just takes the upper hand, wins it. Krauser's defeated. We cut to like Geese laughing his ass off that Krauser lost.
Yeah, that was a funny way to end it.
Just
And
like,
also, yeah, Krauser just super cat, like, finally, someone has defeated me. Here I come, father. And
yeah,
just
jumps out a window.
yeah, it just falls to his death into the ocean and sinks like a fucking rock. Like he is going to the bottom.
Yeah, but he loses, and Geese is like, so Krauser lost? That's what that motherfucker gets. I like how deep. I like how every time I hear Geese in English, his voice is deep as shit too, which is just perfect. But no, he laughs, and then the movie ends with Terry doing his iconic win pose, throwing his hat in the air. Okay, and they have like a happier song than the first movie did.
Yeah,
But both movies' end credits are like a panel of montages from things from the movie. And yeah, relatively quick convo about these two things. Not much to cover, but yeah, that was for the movies. You got anything else you want to talk about before we hop into the final thoughts?
Let's see.
Anything that stood out to you? Anything?
I think we covered most everything. Like, like a cool moment I don't know if we touched on is it was Terry, even in the midst of his like complete lowest drunken stupor, just like mopping the floor with that street gang instantly. That was a fun moment.
Hey, like halfway through a bottle, they're like talking shit. He beats their asses and then just downs the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just sits back on the bench.
You mentioned Andy's hair color is corrected in this second one,
Yeah.
but he still has a weird fucking shaped head.
Yes, he
Like
does.
it's just it ends too soon. Anytime he turns to the side, it's just very weirdly shaped.
I think that's part of the reason he's seen as the lame one, if you ask me. But I remember when King of Fighters 14 came out, it was the second most recent game for them. People accused it of having PlayStation 2 graphics because it didn't. They were better than PlayStation 2. But one of the first like alpha build people they showed was Andy, and he looked so much like a tech character out of like Tekken 3. Just because of his weird shaped head and just the way how weird Andy looks in general. I'm like, damn, that is not how you want your first impression of these graphics to be. And the graphics ended up being okay for that. They're better in 15, obviously. But it's always going to be weird when you take 2D characters and switch them over to 3D.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like just fighting games in general, particularly at like after Like there was that weird space where we were existing in like that 3D, like 100% 3D animated space. And I feel like one of the modern Street Fighters is the one that kind of developed the new. Well, yeah, it's 3D, but we're also just playing in like the 2D. Like it
Yeah.
looks.
Like
It also
around
looks
Street Fighter
2D like
4,
you
it
remember
started
when you're a
doing
kid.
that. Yeah, Street Fighter 4 was doing that, like 2.5D, as I like to call it. KOF stuck to sprites as long as they could. I think KOF 13, they did 3D models that were then rendered down to sprites. So you had Terry with like fucking The Rock size arms, just fucking in that game, and everybody was just the men were just muscular as all shit. And I mean, they still kind of are in 3D now, but they're not as ridiculously proportioned as they were in 13. Because when they went to 14, they're like, fine, no more 3D rendered down to 2D. We'll just do 3D graphics and we'll do 2.5D like everybody else. 3D models on a 2D plane. And obviously, you know, Tekken and Soul Calibur have been 3D forever. That's just how they do things. It is a fully 3D environment.
Right.
Virtual Fighter,
yeah.
Tekken, Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive. Shout out to 3D fighters. But yeah, most of the games that need to do 2D or that started in 2D needed to stay in 2D. Cough, cough, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. I was just
You
about
want
to
to talk
mention
about having a phase where they eventually had
what
to
was it?
switch
It was
back?
on my Nintendo 64. I want to say
Probably.
it was it 5?
Deadly Alliance. Did Liu Kang die in the opening?
I don't.
Was there a
recall.
female Sub-Zero?
Or was it 4?
I mean, 4 was also...
No, 4
No.
was Annihilation. That was a 2D.
No.
No, I'm thinking of 3.
No. 4 was 4, and it was 3D. 4 was the first. The 4 3D games are 4, 5, aka Deadly Alliance, which more than likely was the one you were talking about on GameCube.
No, Nintendo 64.
Oh, 64
is what I said. I think it's 4. Yeah, I think I was the first one.
If it's Nintendo 64,
because I was playing every Mortal Kombat,
if it's
and
Nintendo
then suddenly
64,
it was.
then it's 4.
Yeah. Okay.
5 was Deadly Alliance. 6 was Deception. 7 was Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't technically an 8, but it also kind of was, and that was Mortal Kombat versus DC. And that was a fully 3D one. And that was the last time they tried it. And that was also probably the worst performing out of those when it came to sales and stuff, despite it having Superman and stuff. Because the game was just bad. They
lost me at 4.
It was just bad.
Yeah.
But MK9, they went back to being 2D playing with 3D models and blew everyone's minds with how good that one was. And then 10, 11, 1.
So final
thoughts
on Fatal Fury. It was, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I gave it its best shot.
Fair.
I just, whatever the scenario, I just wasn't able to, it never grabbed me. I was always stopping myself from falling into a distraction of my phone or just literally just like wandering off in my mind. It just wasn't pulling me in, and that could be 100% my fault. But it was a little weak on some important points like score, music. We're gonna say in the beginning, the fighting animate, like it's a fucking show. It's a movie about fighting. And like you said, so much of the big fighting is cut out. Or it's just a bunch of motion lines. And then we're supposed to expect that Andy is so fast and so good that he just performed motion lines in front of this kickboxer, and the kickboxer fell to the ground and the match is over. He just defeated that championship kickboxer in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely has its weak points, but I acknowledge that I may have not given it its best shot. But for what it was interesting. I was far more captivated and enjoyed the Street Fighter film that we watched.
Yeah, and that's more or less what I was gonna say. I like the Street Fighter one more. This one was cool enough. It had a lot more. It had a lot of flaws and everything. I like the Street Fighter movie more, though. To be fair, Part 3 may be a better comparison to go head to head with that one, considering it's a whole motion picture.
Okay.
I will say, despite the datedness, I do like the second one that we watched more than the first one.
Yes, I will agree with you on that.
Because we actually got to see fights. I wish Mai could have won her fight, but oh well. Because, I mean, Chun-Li at least got to beat Vega, I'm pretty sure, in that movie. And, I mean, Vega got some hits in, but Chun-Li at least won that fight. And I think Mai deserved to win hers as well, just to be a bit more with the whole equalness.
Yeah.
I also, as a Kim fan, with him being the first SNK character I ever learned, I kind of wish we got more out of him, but I know he shows back up in the motion picture, so that's probably where he gets his shine. But overall, it was okay. If you want to watch a movie based on a fighting game, an animated movie, and you're talking about the ones we've covered on this channel, right now I'm going to say watch the Street Fighter 2 movie. Easy.
Yeah. It's just such a specific call to action.
There are anime movies.
If you're looking to watch an animated movie about a classic Japanese fighting game, go to Street Fighter. That we've covered on this show. Go to Street Fighter.
To be fair, there's an anime movie for Tekken as well as I'm sure many forms of Mortal Kombat movies. So I can't just be like, if you were looking to watch a fighting game movie, watch Street Fighter. But definitely of the ones we've covered, I can easily recommend Street Fighter 2 the movie, animated movie. Yeah.
And we've already covered, both of us have seen the major live action representations of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, right?
I've seen the ones that I haven't seen the most recent Mortal Kombat movie.
I have seen that.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. I saw the classic Mortal Kombat movie, which for the longest was the best representation we had for a video game movie.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah.
For the longest, it's like the one shining thing with video game movies was at least the original Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, man.
Annihilation, not so much. But
I used to go to karate tournaments, and my my mother bought me the CD of the motion picture soundtrack, and I had a Walkman with a CD player, Walkman, and headphones. And that was my hype song. There was nothing hyper. Yeah. Yeah. Man. Oh, I'm getting hype. I'm getting hype just thinking about it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that song just... I remember one time I was watching it with Jazz and Ibn like 12 years ago. We decided to randomly pop that in, and we're just sitting, and as the movie starts, it's like, test your might. Like, as it's playing, I just start going like...
I'm fucking watching Mortal Kombat now. It's done. It's done. It's over. It's decided. I'm watching Mortal Kombat now.
But yeah.
All right.
You guys...
You know what else we're watching?
Oh, what are we watching next week? Haha. Yes.
We're not watching Mortal Kombat. Well, I'm watching Mortal Kombat, but we won't be talking about that next week. But we will stick in a martial arts realm. Ooh. And we are going to watch 1992's Super Cop, aka Police Story 3. Here on This Guy Hasn't Seen.
I sure haven't.
Omari.
Yes, sir.
Take them home, baby.
Oh, I will take you home, and I'll start off by telling you what else you can find this. Obviously, we talked about other things on this channel. You can go check those videos out. We also have a show every Saturday called You Don't Watch Sports, where we cover stuff exactly for people who that title belongs to or relates to. You Don't Watch Sports? That's the show for you. It's two people that sports enjoyers, not experts, talking about some hot topics so that you can have some topics to talk about throughout the week. I'm also found on YouTube on the Whatever We Want podcast, new episodes every week, every Wednesday. I do it with a good friend of mine, a good friend of the show, Super Jazz.
Super Jazz.
Thank you very much, as nature intended. We talk about just that, whatever we want. My show titles are very simple. The show title tells you what the show is. But yes, I also have a Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That's GIOTAVI.
Come on in. Stop on by.
Thank you very much. Bill, you got anything you want to say to the folks?
Nah, man.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You guys have a good one. We'll see you next week with Super Cop. Adiosness.
Omari, I just slapped my camera behind my desk. Oh. It is on the ground in no man's land.